Hi everyone, this is Dr. Neha Khurke and welcome once again to another case discussion in Zomeo Classroom. The case that we are going to discuss today is a very interesting case of the neurological variety. Before I begin with the case history and the discussion, I would request all of you to have a note paper and a pen with you so that you can note down or jot down all the characteristics that you feel are there in the case as well as the totality, and in the end we will compare the two and see what was the outcome of the case. So let's start. This is a case of Alzheimer's with OCD in a 60-year-old woman. Interesting, right? We're starting now. So, this is the case of a 60-year-old lady, wife of a doctor, who came with complaints of weakness of memory. She was accompanied by her daughter and her husband, who is a physician in the United Kingdom. So here is the ODP of the case, or the origin, duration and progress of the case. Everything was all right till one day about 3 months back, her sister, that is the patient's sister, came to visit her along with her husband. They were sitting and chatting and generally were having a great time when suddenly her brother-in-law, that is her sister's husband, had a cardiac arrest and expired within a span of a few hours. And this event was a major shock for the patient. Her husband said that it was around that time that she started forgetting things. She started forgetting day-to-day events, but her memory for events of the past were absolutely clear. She was always confused and always muddled in different kind of situations. Her daughter said that she would go to the washroom again and again every half hour and would wash her underwear every time. She would wash, iron, change, wash, iron, and this cycle would continue throughout the day, every single day for the past 3 months. So we come to look at her physical generals. Before that, let me do a short recap again of her case history. Here is a patient who is suffering from weakness of memory since the past 3 months. And this began after her brother-in-law passed away very suddenly from a cardiac arrest, and she received a major shock because of this. Although she would forget the recent or the day-to-day events and would get muddled, her memory of past events was absolutely clear. Another very peculiar symptom of the patient was that she constantly was washing her underwear and changing it every half an hour, and this was happening throughout the day. Now looking at her physical generals, this is what we see. She has a ravenous appetite, always must eat food on time. As far as thirst goes, she had 9 to 10 glasses of water per day. No specific desires or aversions when it came to food and drink. There was an increased urge to pass urine or a frequent urination. No complaints while passing stool. Perspiration was moderate, non-offensive and non-staining. Sleep was good, sound. Thermally, this patient could be categorized as a hot patient. I hope that you are noting down all the important characteristics that you feel on a piece of paper or in a notebook, because this will be very helpful once we start with the case discussion. Now let us look at her other mental symptoms. She was extremely particular about tidiness and cleanliness. All right. Now this is her case history. How do we go about solving this case and giving the remedy to the patient? The first step is case analysis. And in case analysis, the first thing that we do is we extract the totality of the symptoms. If you remember, in the previous case discussions that we have had in Zomeo Classroom, I had explained what exactly is the totality. Basically, it is a harmonious correlation of the physical as well as the mental characteristics of the patient. The symptoms that make up the individual and make him different from everyone else is the totality. So here in this case, what will be those symptoms? I hope that you have noted down your totality for this patient. Let's compare. So these are the symptoms that we took for the totality in this patient. The first was obviously forgetfulness, because this was the chief complaint. Now, let's get specific when it comes to the second symptom that we have taken. She is forgetful about recent day-to-day events only. Now, this is a peculiar characteristic of her chief complaint. The third symptom that we will take is the ailment from which this particular chief complaint has arisen. So, ailments from death of a near and dear one. This is a characteristic causation. Understand, not everyone becomes forgetful after they receive the shock of such kind. But for this patient, this was extremely peculiar and characteristic to her, which is why we have taken the chief complaint also in the totality as well as the ailment. Moving on to the next symptom that we have considered is confused memory or confusion. The next is desire to wash underwear. Now this is a PQRS symptom. This is something very, very unusual, which is why we have considered this symptom in the totality. The next is fastidious. Now see the beauty of this case. She is forgetful. She has compulsions and obsessions, but she has not forgotten that she needs to be clean and tidy. And this is why we have taken this particular symptom. Then we come to appetite that is increased to the point of being ravenous. She has to eat something whenever she feels even slightly hungry. And the last symptom that we have taken is frequent urination, which is a characteristic physical particular for her. Now in this, let me interject that she has not been given any other medication up till now in these 3 months. So there is nothing that can justify this frequent urination. We usually have a lot of allopathic drugs which have this side effect of frequent urination and canine appetite. But because this patient has not or had never received any kind of medication, we take these two symptoms as being peculiar to her personality, as being peculiar to her body and physical attributes. Okay, so this is my totality, and you can write down or you can enter in the comments what was your totality, so that we can compare the difference between the totality that we have considered and the totality that you have taken. I'm sure that most of the symptoms that you must have taken in your totality are all present here. Okay, now this was step 1. The next step in case analysis is how we convert each of these symptoms taken in the totality in the form of rubrics. All right. Now this is going to be very interesting. So watch carefully. This is how we have converted the symptoms into rubrics. Let's take the first symptom of the totality, which is forgetfulness. Now this is pretty straightforward. The rubric is present as forgetfulness in the mind chapter of the complete repertory. The second is forgetful about recent events or day-to-day situations. We converted this into the rubric forgetfulness facts for recent. All you have to do is go to the mind chapter of the complete repertory, and under forgetfulness you can study all the sub-rubrics that are there. I know that for a lot of you who are watching us right now, it is a little difficult to know where exactly the rubric is present, whether such a rubric or a sub-rubric is actually present or not. So for this, we have different ways in our software in Zomeo through which you can arrive at the perfect rubric that you want for your patient. And I will show them to you shortly. But for now, let's look at the conversion of the rubrics. The third rubric, or the third symptom rather, that was converted into the rubric is ailments from death of a near and dear one, which we converted to complete mind death ailments from aggravate loved ones of. Next is confusion or confused memory. Again, a pretty straightforward conversion. Memory confused from the mind chapter. The next is desire to wash underwear. Now, this was a rubric that we did not know whether it was present in any of the repertories. So we just typed in the search. I typed wash and underwear, and to my utter surprise, I found this rubric in the complete repertory. So this rubric is bathing, washing, desire for, always, underwear her. The next rubric we took was mind, fastidious. Again, an absolutely straightforward conversion. Appetite, ravenous was found in the stomach chapter of the complete repertory as appetite, ravenous, canine, excessive. And the final characteristic particular that we took in our totality of frequent urination was found in the chapter bladder of the complete repertory as urination frequent. Let me repeat all the rubrics again. I would request you to note down all these rubrics because I will be explaining how you can search for every rubric from Zomeo. So I am repeating the rubrics again. Complete mind forgetfulness, complete mind forgetfulness facts for recent, complete mind death ailments from aggravates loved ones of, complete mind memory confused, complete mind bathing washing desire for always underwear her, complete mind fastidious, complete stomach appetite ravenous canine excessive. complete, bladder, urination, frequent. So this is the list of rubrics from our totality that we now need to repertorize and see which is the final remedy that comes that we can give to this patient. All right. So now I'm sure that you have noted down the totality of symptoms and the rubrics that we have taken. And now I am going to show you how you can record each rubric that is there in this totality using different techniques or ways from hompathsomeo. All right. So now let us record these rubrics using hompathsomeo. Now, there are different ways in which every homeopath will record rubrics as per his or her comfort. And I will be showing you the different ways in which rubrics can be recorded using Zomeo. Let us start with the first, most basic, most used and most usual way, which is the classic way of recording. This is just like you take a physical repertory, open it, open the chapter and look for the rubric. This is exactly how we will be searching for the rubric in hompathsomeo. Let us start. On opening the screen, this is what you see. On the left hand side will be the complete list of repertories that are there in Zomeo. If I want to look for a rubric in the mind chapter of any repertory, all I need to do is select that chapter. For now, I would like to record the first 3 rubrics from the mind chapter of the complete repertory that is open by default. Now, in this itself, there are 2 very interesting ways in which you can record the rubric. Let us start with the first rubric, which is forgetfulness. I'll show you now the easiest, the first way in which I'll be recording. All I have to do is just begin typing FORGET. And as you can see, the software has directly jumped to that rubric, forgetfulness. I can now record this rubric by either double-clicking on it or just checking the box that is present against the rubric. I check the box and the rubric is recorded. How do I confirm that the rubric is recorded? Do you see this black bar here, friends? The very first icon is the icon of the repertorization sheet, and under that is the number 1, which means that one rubric has already been recorded, which is the rubric forgetfulness. Now, let me show you how we can record the second rubric. I will repeat the same way to show you how this feature can be used. So I type forgetful space recent, and now I see the results. Forgetfulness facts for recent is the first rubric, and this is what I want to record. Now I can either record it from here by checking the box itself, or I can choose to jump to the rubric first and then record the rubric. Let me record it from here, saving a few seconds of my time. This box is now checked and the rubric has been recorded. For the third rubric in the list, which is death, ailments from, aggravate loved ones, I will show you the second way in this classic view through which this rubric can be recorded. This is called the level search. From this button here, search, I click on it and I select level search. When I select level search, a pop-up opens in which now I can enter the main rubric and any sub-rubric under it. So let me start and show you. I will start with death. Death is the second level rubric and I can see that the software has already jumped to it. Moving on, we go on to level 3. So there is an ailments from. So now I just type in level 3 ailments. Again, jumped to the sub-rubric and now I select loved ones. Let me type all right. And now you can see that that rubric has been highlighted. Death, ailments from, aggravate, loved ones of. This is the exact rubric that I am looking for. Under this rubric, you can also view all the remedies in their different gradations that are present. I now select this rubric. So within a span of a few seconds, I have already recorded 3 rubrics. Now let's move on to a more interesting technique of searching for a rubric. Suppose you're a physician who is very busy in his practice, or you are somebody who has just started out in your practice and you have no idea where a particular rubric is present. Then this particular technique of looking for the rubric is the best choice for you. And this is repertory search. It is an overall search engine where you just type in a few keywords and you get the results from all over the software from any repertory where these keywords are present. Let me show you a few rubrics in this way. The next rubric, if you look down on your paper, of the totality of symptoms is memory confused. Let us search for memory confused using the repertory search. I go to repertory and I click on repertory search. Alternatively, you can also click Command S from your keyboard and this window opens. Now I just have to type the keywords that I am looking for. I type memory and confused. So memory space confused and enter. And now I can see that there are 18 references for this rubric. I select the first one since it is the most relevant for my patient and it also has the maximum number of remedies. I check this box. In case I'd like to see which are the remedies present within this rubric, I just click on the rubric and a pop-up window opens where I can see all 12 remedies present under memory confused. Let me show you another rubric using this feature. So again, I go to Command S, and the next rubric that I want to search is bathing, washing, desire, underwear. So I just type washing space underwear, enter. And now I see that there is only one rubric in the entire repertory list that I have which has these keywords: bathing, washing, desire for, always, underwear, her. I check this box, and now this rubric also has been recorded. So you see, friends, this rubric which I searched for is present in just one repertory. Now, do you understand how important it is to have access to more repertories, or to as many repertories as we can, so that we can arrive at the accurate rubric for the patient? This is exactly the reason why we have more than 40 repertories in Zomeo at your disposal at the click of a button, so that you never miss out on any rubric that you want for your patient. I will show you now one more rubric using this very useful feature, that is fastidious. Again, Command S from my keyboard, and I type fastidious. I select fastidious and press enter. And here I have 12 references to fastidious. Now, this also becomes useful. Say, suppose you're giving a lecture somewhere or a seminar somewhere, and you would like to show the range of rubrics that you can have access to for every case. Especially when you are giving a seminar or a lecture, there is a small but very important feature in Zomeo where you can increase the font size so that it becomes very easy for you as well as the people who are watching you to read the rubrics, to read the references, and to read the remedies. All you have to do is just access this small bar at the top. You move the cursor towards the right, and the font size automatically increases for you to read very comfortably. Now, coming back to the case, I want to now record the rubric fastidious. I check the box fastidious from the complete repertory, and this rubric is now recorded. All right, we still have two more rubrics to be recorded. And to record these rubrics, I have a very interesting technique for you, especially if you are a physician who is just starting out in their practice, for whom the conversion from symptom into rubric is a bit difficult. This is the perfect feature for you, which is the quick symptom record. In this feature, all you need to do is type the symptom of the patient, and you get the rubrics that can be recorded for this patient. Isn't this absolutely useful for you? So let us see how we can use this feature. From the repertory module, you go to Quick Symptom Record. Otherwise, you can also click Command K from your keyboard, and the Quick Symptom Record feature opens. On the left hand side, you see chapters. Chapters in which symptoms have been mentioned in regular language. And against each symptom, we have linked one or more relevant rubrics for that symptom. As an example, let me show you the last two rubrics in the totality of the patient. We have appetite, ravenous, canine. Now, all I need to do is type appetite. And now I get the references for appetite. I look under stomach and I see the different types of appetite from which I select increased. Under increased now, I have all the rubrics that can be linked to this symptom increased, one of which is appetite, ravenous, canine, excessive. I check that particular rubric and now it is recorded. Now let's look at the last rubric or the last symptom in the totality, which is frequent urination. Again, I just type in urination. And these are the few references that I get. For frequent urination, I look under urinary system and I see the word frequent. I click on that. I see all the rubric references that I have, and now I can select which rubric I would like to record for this patient. I will now record the first rubric in the list, which has the maximum number of remedies. This rubric is from the bladder chapter of complete repertory. And now my repertorization sheet is complete. If I now want to see the entire sheet together, I click on this icon here, and here is the complete repertorization sheet that has been recorded. If you see, there are 8 rubrics that have been recorded and the total number of remedies are 875. Now, how do I select the remedy for my patient from such a vast range of remedies? For that, we have the feature of filters. The filters do exactly as they say. They filter out the unnecessary, unwanted remedies and keep and show you only those that are relevant for the symptoms of your case. As an example, I will be showing you two of our most used and most popular filters. The first one is the remedy property filter. To access our filters, you need to go to this toolbar here. If you can see carefully, friends, I click on the second icon. This is the icon for remedy property filter. When I click on it, I now see certain options from which I just have to select what is the relevant one for my patient. And finally, using this filter, my list will drill down to a select group of remedies through which or from which I can then prescribe for the patient. So now, in this patient, if you remember, the thermal modality of this patient was hot. So I will select hot. She also has increased appetite. So I will select appetite increased. Now, to understand, this is a patient who is showing me symptoms more so on the mental sphere and then on the physical sphere. I need a remedy that will be deep enough to impact this patient at all levels. And for that, I will be needing a polycrest remedy. And that is why I will select the option only polycrest. And now let me see the final result that I get. I apply these changes and now my list of remedies has drilled down from 875 to just 36. Still, I want to be absolutely sure of my remedy. I want the remedy list to reduce even further so that it becomes easier for me to arrive at the simillimum. And for that, I will be applying the second filter. Friends, you can apply as many filters as you want, depending on the requirement of your patient, and the final list that you will get will contain the perfect remedy that you need to give to your patient. Let me apply the second filter or the cross repertorization filter. Now, in every case, although there may be 8 symptoms, 10 symptoms, 20 symptoms, 50 symptoms, there are going to be some that are most important in your patient, without which you cannot prescribe for the patient. And this is exactly what the cross repertorization filter does for you. It shows you the most important symptoms and the remedies that are present in them. And this is going to now help me drill down the list further. So let me show you how we can apply the cross repertorization filter. The cross repertorization filter is present here in the filter toolbar. I select it and a pop-up window opens containing all the rubrics that I have recorded. Now, I have to select the rubrics that are most important for my patient. So for me, it is the chief complaints first that are most important. So I will select forgetfulness, facts for recent, because it is the causation that has precipitated all these symptoms in the patient. Of course, I have to consider the causation as well. So I will select death, ailments from aggravate, loved ones off. And the final symptom that I would like to take is fastidious. And now let me see what happens. All right, now my list from 875 remedies has drilled down to just 3 remedies: natrum mur, sulfur and medorinum, out of which natrum mur covers the maximum marks or the maximum gradation. Of course, we all know the constitution, we all know the symptoms of natrum mur. But as a conscientious physician, I would still like to confirm. And I can confirm this from source books. Apart from source books, what Zomeo has are something called as keynotes. Keynotes are what the doctors at HomepathSoftware have researched and made and compiled from various source books all over the world to give you a comprehensive picture of the drug. So let us see how we can access the keynotes of Natramure. I right click on Natramure. I now see certain options in the drop down and I select keynotes. And now let me read the keynotes. If you see the very first line, prolonged, deep, silent grief or sorrow, this is now your answer that Natramure is the remedy for this patient. We have confirmed it as the prescription. Now, however important the remedy is, it is as important that you select the correct potency for the patient. Because if you don't select the correct potency, two things can happen. Either the remedy will have no effect or the remedy will cause a marked aggravation in the patient. Now, we don't want all that. We want the patient to get better. And for that, we need to give the remedy in the correct potency. And we have the perfect guide for you to help you select the accurate potency for this patient. And this is called the Potency Selector Guide. To access the Potency Selector Guide, you click on Patient and in the last option, you see Potency Selector Guide. Now a pop-up window opens in which there are certain options that are given to you. All you need to do is select the correct option for your patient and you will then get the correct potency in which you need to prescribe the remedy. So let me select some of the options. It is not necessary that you have to select something from every multiple choice that is given. You can select whatever is relevant for the patient. So I select adult, good sleep, good nutrition. I move on to the next page. It is asking me what I would like to select in the remedies or the drugs. For this patient, I do not want to do anything. I move on. It is asking me about the stage of the disease. Now in this, under predominance of symptoms, I would like to select characteristic symptoms. Now I go on to next. And now I have to select options for the similarity and response. If I want, I can. If I want, I may not. I will select emotional and intellectual. Result. And now the software has given me in what potency and what dosage I should prescribe Natramure for the patient. High potency and in infrequent repetition or try LM potency. So now my prescription is Natramure 1 ml in a single dose. This is what was given to the patient. Let us see what happened. In the follow-up, surprisingly and very disappointingly, progress was not encouraging, even with repeated doses of Natramure. 2 months after trial with Natramure. Now, understand that we cannot change the remedy so soon. We need to try the remedy in different potencies, in different repetitions, and then finally ensure that this remedy may not be working for the patient. And after 2 months of trial, We needed to review the case because the patient was not improving. This meant that we had to reconsider the case of the patient and see what we may have missed out. Was there something that we did not consider in the totality? Was there something that we had completely overlooked or missed out? And then we found out what it was that was missing. What kept cropping up and was consistent in the case was this symptom, a constant desire to wash underwear. Now, if you remember, we had recorded this rubric. Let's go back and revisit this rubric. With a command S, we go back to the rubric washing underwear. We enter this rubric and we see that there is only one remedy, syphilinum. And this is what we had missed out. Yet, syphilinum is a very powerful nosode. Before prescribing such a remedy, it is very important to confirm whether we are truly giving the right remedy to the patient or not. So how do we confirm? Again, by going back to our notes. Let's look at the keynotes of syphilinum. I click on syphilinum and a window opens which first shows me the properties of this remedy. But what I want to look at actually are the keynotes. How do I access the keynotes? I click on this arrow next to properties and I select the option keynotes. And now I see the keynotes and I can read the keynote or the red line symptoms of syphilinum. Now our patient is a patient in whom mental symptoms are predominating. So let me directly jump to the mind section of the syphilinum keynotes. From the sections tab, I will select mind. Now let's have a look. In bold capital, impulse to wash hands, compulsive checking, something that is there in our patient. But what was the actual deciding factor was this symptom. Forgetfulness, does not remember faces, names, events, places, but remembers things previous to his illness. If you remember, this was a very characteristic symptom in the patient. Forgetfulness for recent events, but remembered past events perfectly. And syphilinum is there in this symptom as well. And now we are sure that syphilinum is the remedy for this patient. On reviewing the prescription, as we saw, we then prescribed syphilinum 200 in single dose. Have a look at her follow-up. Her washing mania became better by 20%. Her loquacity went down. Her confusion went down. She became more active. She started making tea, which means that she slowly started easing into her daily routine on her own. Her sleep was very peaceful. The frequency of her urination also went down. Now, in this case, do you think that we needed to repeat the remedy? Not at all. We just put her on placebo. The next follow-up was even more hopeful. Her washing mania was much better. The patient had stopped talking unnecessary things. Memory was improving, which was her chief complaint. The urination frequency became much better and she stopped washing her undergarments. Again, only SL or placebo was prescribed to her. Her subsequent follow-ups made us very happy because she was consistently improving on the one dose of cephalosporin that we had given. You can see how much better she had become over time. After 2 months, she again came back with slight confusion, some disorientation, but we could not elicit any cause. So we repeated a dose of cephalosporin 200. The subsequent follow-up, she was much better. So at the end of this, what is the learning that we get from this case, which is the most important takeaway of this case? Selection of the correct potency with guarded repetition is vital. Such a deep-acting medicine, if repeated injudiciously, can produce severe aggravation. The art of prescribing here was based on a characteristic mental symptom which gets to the core of the remedy as well as the patient. So here is where we end this case discussion. I really hope that you have learned a lot after this case discussion. And if you have any questions with regard to the case or to the software, please feel free to comment or ask us, and we will do our best in answering any of your queries and questions. Till then, goodbye and see you next week.